Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the first in a series of CCS Media, Servium and Advania webinars. We'll be covering a range of topics that we know are of interest to you and exploring how we can help you with them. As you know, Servium and CCS Media came together last year under the Advania banner, and we'll talk to you about some of the additional value that brings. Today's subject is AI, data to devices. And here to help unpack this very hot topic, I have two colleagues from Advania, Peter Wilson and Arno Nell. We also have Ross Haddow from our technology partner Dell to explore how the emergence of AI-optimized devices can accelerate and enhance this journey for you, our customers. First, some introductions. I'm Andrew Keithley, and I have the privilege of leading the pre-sales function at CCS Media. Peter, tell us about yourself.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the webinar this morning. My name's Peter Wilson. I've been with Advania now for just shy of 30 years. So over that time, seen lots of technology change. And, to me, we're in one of those inflection points, and we'll talk about that as we go through. My role really is pre-sales, so technical pre-sales. So I'm here to help translate the technology into business challenges and how we solve those business challenges for our clients. Arno, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Good morning, everyone. I am Advania's AI product director, which means I typically get involved in creating the AI services that we use for our Advania clients.
And Ross, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, good morning all, and thank you to Advania for inviting me onto this webinar. Yes, my name is Ross Haddow. I am a client solution technologist for Dell Technologies. I am also a client solution technologist along with an ambassador to our CT office with a 14 years tenure at Dell, all to do with client, and here to help the guys at Advania.
Thank you. So before we start, I just want to ask that if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And if we have time at the end, we'll endeavour to go through as many as we possibly can. We aim to run for about 45 to 60 minutes. However, if we do not get to your question, please don't worry. We will come back to you individually after the event. So it's fair to say AI is a buzzword. It's everywhere. And it seems to be attached to everything. All devices, all web apps, the car, even the fridge. Today, we're going to cover a couple of specific areas. ChatGPT around your data and Copilot, the value of having a digital assistant. So to the first question, what is AI anyway? Arno, do you want to cover that one?
Yeah, no worries. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to describe some key concepts given such a broad audience with so many people with different backgrounds. So apologies for those people who are AI experts already. Starting with the really easy bits, so AI stands for artificial intelligence, and it's the technology that enables computers to simulate human learning. And it's the learning here that is key. Directly underneath AI, we have machine learning, which involves creating models by training an algorithm to make predictions based on the data you give it. So it's like teaching computers to learn from past experiences, much like teaching a child by showing them lots of examples, I would say. Another example could be an email spam filter that becomes better over time by analyzing which emails are spam and which emails are not spam. So underneath machine learning, we have deep learning that uses multi-layered neural networks. And the key takeaway here is really that it more closely simulates the decision-making power of the human brain. And then finally, we have Gen AI or generative AI. And this branch of AI creates new content by learning from existing content. And when I say content or data, I mean lots and lots and lots of data, like everything that is on the public internet, and some might actually question the non-public internet too. And so it has the ability to create new original content by learning from existing content. And this could be in the form of text, images, music, video, and so much more. So next slide, Lou. Generative AI is used in products such as ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot. So everyone would have heard of ChatGPT, which is owned by OpenAI, and they're close partners with Microsoft. But did you know what GPT stands for? So the G stands for generative, so the ability to generate new content such as text, video, images, etc. The P stands for pre-trained, and to the fact that the model was trained by processing huge amounts of data. And the last word is T for transformer, and that's the key piece and the invention that is underlying the current boom in Gen AI. So a transformer is a specific kind of neural network, which we learned is a machine learning model that's trained to take in a piece of text in the example above, and with this text produce a prediction of what word or content comes next. Other terms you may hear in this presentation are things like LLM. So LLM stands for Large Language Model, which is a foundational model used in Gen AI. And a foundation model just means it's general purpose model instead of being task specific. And you'll see different companies creating different versions. So you'll hear things like OpenAI have 4.0 or 03 Mini, or Google have Gemini, Meta have Llama, and even Chinese companies with DeepSeek, R1, or Qwen. These models all have their pros and cons. Some are better at coding, some are better at reasoning. And this is where you have to use these models to build your own applications and agents on. None of these have access to your data, so they don't understand your company context, your products. They provide quite a bit of value out of the box, obviously, but the onus is really on you to build compelling applications or agents on top of them to get the most value out. So hopefully that demystifies some of generative AI for you.
Thanks, Arno. That's great. So let's discuss how Gen AI can be used in a practical way by seeing how Advania have used it and feedback from clients that they are supporting with their journey, especially around Copilot and Copilot Plus devices, as well as private ChatGPT and AI automation. Let's start with Copilot. What is it? What can it be used for? And where would you use it regularly? Over to you, Peter.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody, again. Apologies for a couple of people are struggling to join us, but hopefully they will be able to get through very shortly. Copilot. So yes, Advania UK was one of the first organisations in the UK to actually license all of our internal users with Copilot for M365. So what that allowed us to do was really to be at the forefront of using the solution, be the software, the digital assistant as it is, to really so that we can give you ideas and understand how it works for our clients, because we're using it on a day-to-day basis. But what I'd like to start with is by saying Copilots, there are a number of. The one we're specifically going to talk about today is M365 Copilot, but there are Copilots for security, GitHub, Power Platform, Dynamics, Fabric, etc. There are a number of different Copilots out there, all of which do ever so slightly different things and interact with different elements within the Microsoft solution. But as I say, today we're going to talk about the M365 Copilot within the modern work arena. So how do we use it? Well, I use it daily. I find it an incredible assistant. And for me, I think probably the best way that I use it is in my Teams calls. So, you know, when we're in a Teams call, having the ability to record, having the ability for the AI to then automatically minute that conversation, automatically create tasks for that, so that, you know, we can see what notes we need to take from the meeting, who's got the actions from there. All of that is super, super important and super useful. And think of the time that that saves me with the number of calls that we do. It is absolutely revolutionary. Other ways I use it, there's some slightly funny ways. So if we think about email, so we all get thousands of emails on a weekly basis. So having a tool that actually will go through and help us decipher what is useful email, what is just spam email, what actually we need to action that's got priority around it. Again, fantastic use of Copilot, and that capability is awesome. But I use it for other silly things within email as well. And, you know, I've been part of this industry for a very long time. And to say that my email etiquette is where it always should be, possibly is not necessarily the right, but I do use Copilot to actually check the tone of my emails. It is absolutely fantastic. So it will tell me if I'm being short, if I'm shouting, if I'm being rude in an email. I actually use Copilot to temper the content of an email that I'm sending to somebody. But as well as that, you know, all of us will have that white space fear of, you know, you put up an email template, you've got to send a really important email to a client, and you go, oh, what am I going to say? Copilot, you just ask Copilot, please write me an email which details this solution for this client and pick out these particular points. Bang, it will give you a draft of that email that you can then go and edit, make it yours, make it sound like you, but, you know, fantastic way of moving it forward. And I do the same with Word. Again, trying to write a document about a particular subject. So let's say if I was to write, you know, what is Copilot? I can ask Copilot itself to write me a Word document that details all of the key features. And by getting the right prompt in play, it can be pretty accurate and give me a really good starting point of a document. And I can limit it. I can say, make it more professional, make it funny, and all of these things. And it absolutely will go away and do all of that for me. Other areas I use it for, which certainly are getting significantly better, summarizing a document. All of us will get RFP documents on a regular basis, which could be 60, 70 pages long. Bringing that into your AI tool and saying, please summarize the key parts of this document. And then bang, it just does it for you. It saves massive amounts of time and allows you to be much, much more productive. And the final piece, PowerPoint. So do I use Copilot PowerPoint? Absolutely, I do. I will use it based on, I'll bring in a file. So I'll have written a Word file with what I want to see in that PowerPoint. I'll bring that file into PowerPoint, and then I'll say, using that file, please create me a 10-slide deck with, you know, certain parameters, and it will go away and it will do it for me. So think again about the amount of time that's saving me as being that AI assistant. It is really, really, really cool technology. I don't know, Arno, do you want to jump in there with any use cases that you use on a daily basis?
I think you've pretty much summed up the way I used it as well. I think the game changer for me has been the meeting transcription and having the ability to take notes and follow up on actions. But besides that, I probably use it much like everyone else. I think the number one use case for me is brainstorming, having a digital sort of Arno that I can pick ideas, brainstorm ideas with, see what's going on in the industry, on the internet, etc. So brainstorming is probably my second most common use case.
Yeah, and it's funny how much better it's got. I don't know if you remember the days of when email first had voicemail, and they were doing transcription of that voicemail, and it was slightly dodgy, should we say, in terms of its ability to transcribe what was being said in the voicemail into an email. These days with Teams, it's pretty much spot on. I very rarely see it get it wrong, so it is absolutely fantastic.
Thanks, Pete. And I have to agree. The summary function I find really, really useful on a really busy day. Having the ability to summarize a web chat is absolutely gold. So we've heard a lot about AI-enabled devices coming onto the market, and it seems that most of our major manufacturers, including Dell, have offerings in this space. So Ross, what's changed?
Yep, thanks, Andrew. Yeah, so there has been a very large change in the silicon. I think using the word CPU is probably it's starting to move away from that. We use the word silicon now because historically we've always had what would be classed as a CPU, central processor unit, with a GPU integrated, the graphics card. That has now evolved into the addition of the NPU, the neural processor unit, which is there to evolve the need for AI engine capabilities. So what is now, we're now going to start to see software vendors, even Microsoft from the operating side, everything is now going to be developed and evolve into the addressing of an NPU. Now, this is, it's calculated and it's looked upon in TOPS, TOPS. That's trillion operations per second. Now, without making assumptions to the audience and not knowing what it is, it's really the ability to offload from the CPU, free up the CPU, and actually run dedicated tasks for AI. Now, there's lots of benefits to that, which we'll cover. but the silicon itself is a big change. This is obviously showing you what it looks like from an Intel perspective, but there is obviously other silicon manufacturers like AMD and Qualcomm. So it is deciding from that perspective which is the best silicon to use for the purposes, and the applications they'll lead that charge. The hardware's now evolved to a point where software is now trying to catch up with what the hardware can achieve. So what we're now saying is have a conversation with Advania, your account teams, speak to them, get an understanding of what may be best, but more so have a conversations with your software vendors. What software do you actually use? Ask them if they're developing for this new architecture. If they're developing, what are the requirements? Because very much like historically, a software will say, here's a recommended spec, the processor, the memory, the hard drive. What we'll now start to see creeping in is saying, well, it needs to have the likes of 40 tops. Peter mentioned Copilot. So the Copilot Plus requirement from Microsoft are stipulating 40 tops. So that NPU needs to be a minimum of 40 tops to be able to run Copilot Plus. So that's just one typical example now that there's going to be requirements on this NPU, and very much so a crossroads decision whether the investment should be done. Should you invest just now? Because there is a slight uplift in that cost in this new technology. Will you as a customer benefit in using this new technology? And if so, what's the best route to take? And that's really much having a conversation with the Advania guys, with your account teams, and just establishing what is the best route to take.
Thanks, Ross. Could you tell us a bit more about Dell AI PCs?
Yeah, so what we are doing within Dell is we're on the second generation of Intel, but what we are doing is we're looking beyond Intel now. So we've had Qualcomm for some time, which is a fully Copilot Plus certified device, but we are going to be doing AMD. AMD will be coming in the end of March, beginning of April time. And this is very much led with Windows 11. Windows 11, all the new features around live translation, the Copilot Plus options that you're now going to get, as you can see in the middle of the screen there. So what we're doing is we're providing that broad offering in silicon. What we're saying is, as I mentioned, is establishing what is a real requirement, as in what's the right device for the user. Is it a specialized device? Is it an everyday Latitude, which obviously we've rebranded to Dell Pro? So it is deciding one is the right device, but primarily also deciding what's the right silicon and what's the right spec. So there's much more of a decision now, whereas before it was just a case of, well, how fast does the processor need to be and what does the device need to look like now? There is a greater conversation now around, yes, the device may need to look really nice, or it just needs to provide a function, but more so the technology that sits inside it. What is best for us as an organization or as an individual, and what features and functions do we actually need to use, whether it be within Windows 11 itself, or whether it's the application that we're using as an organization across the board.
Thanks. Could you solidify, what we get for that additional premium when we buy AI-enabled devices? What are the business benefits?
Sure. So here's some examples, Andrew, as to what you could actually look to achieve. So on the left-hand side, these are a lot of capabilities, features, functions within Microsoft 11 itself, Windows 11, or it could be just dedicated applications that provide a sole function, whether it be to provide live translation. So going from translating live from one language to another while in a meeting or a conversation, or doing video editing or rendering or background blurring or eye tracking. All these are different features. You even see the security aspect as well. So all these features, it's not a limited list here. That list was ever growing. So you're getting extra features and functionality, but more so on the right-hand side, if you're talking about a mobile device, you're improving battery life. The battery life is very much a key aspect of every mobile user. It's probably the biggest bugbear is to ensure that the battery runs as long as it physically can. And if the applications do address NPU, then there is those benefits in extending the battery life. But those software companies that have taken on board the new architecture, they're looking to improve the tasks so your users are going to get a better experience. Instead, what they're doing is, if you run a particular task or you run a function, the intention is you want to see that improve, get much quicker, be much more efficient, get the results in a timely manner than you're used to. So the software, as you can see, it says there are 100 plus ISV certifications or developers. That's very much on the development specialized side. There's tens of thousands of applications out there that customers may use specifically or even built in-house. And as such, it's a case of just deciding what features are we going to achieve or gain from the software, the battery life improvements, and improving the tasks themselves. And as such, that's where AI and this particular NPU technology or architecture is going to benefit customers moving forward in the long run. And as such, it's just deciding what do they actually want to get from it, or more so, speaking to, again, Advania and finding out what is the right silicon to move forward with.
Thanks, Ross. That's brilliant.
You're welcome.
So GenIO is used in Copilot, and our devices can be enhanced with the addition of an NPU to process locally. Sounds great. Tell me, Peter, are there other uses inside Advania?
Absolutely. And I'm actually going to pick up on some of the questions that have already been asked. So I'm going to prove this is live and not just AI bots delivering this presentation. Well, they'd have to be very clever ones. So the team have been asking around security and your data security, and this slide really sort of leads on to that very nicely. If you're using, the publicly available AI tools, so the open ChatGPTs, the free versions, the DeepSeeks, the free versions, etc., all of that tooling has the potential for you to leak your data out onto the net. So obviously that is not something that you would want to do necessarily, and something that we need to be extremely mindful of. And for that very reason, what we've developed at Advania is the ability to sorry, somebody's just put, can I identify the traffic lights in this picture? Yes, I am reading. What we've developed is the ability to bring all of that into your tenant, so that the data that you are putting into your AI queries, into your AI questions, are all kept within your environment, so all within your tenant. So if you do have confidential information, your IP, very much like Samsung didn't do on this example, then absolutely all of that data will be kept within your environment. And that is absolutely key. And that's why we developed the solution. But what we wanted to do was actually give you a demo of the tool. So if we click onto the next slide, please, what you'll see is running behind me is a demonstration. So this is our internal private ChatGPT solution. So this is running within the Advania UK Azure tenant. And as you can see, it's going away doing a number of different activities, from looking up XLOOKUP queries within, as an online search, or looking internally within our data. So this is doing a SharePoint search on an account manager, who is the account manager for a certain particular client. So we can, using the tool, dedicate where that search is actually going to happen. But not only that, obviously we can use it as the tool out there, the ChatGPT, but it's bringing all of that data internally. Now, one of the other advantages is we can select specific data that we want to look at. So we call it authoritative documents. So let's say your information architecture is, how do I put this nicely? It could be better, and you've got policies potentially spread all over your environment. We can actually dedicate and pull this back into a particular area that that those documents are what they need to be, and we can search that particular area, knowing that you will always get the latest and the greatest examples of what you need to be. So on the example here, it's running and it's trying to find out, from a project management standpoint, how do I project manage? and how do I invoice a client? So it's giving all of that information from our internal systems. But as you can see, really nicely quick and accurate in terms of what it's doing. You'll also notice it's giving you a link to a document. So when it's gone and found that information, it's actually giving you the content of where it found that answer so that you can actually go through and check. Now, what we're doing now is we're looking at our SharePoint system. So we've actually, again, dedicated this to look at a particular area of SharePoint. Again, not something you can do with Copilot today, unfortunately. And asking questions about a particular client environment. And again, just giving us some detail around, what we did on a particular project, for example. So, really, really useful. Now, the last example we're going to do here is, again, searching our internal system, but actually showing a bit more intelligence rather than just it repeating an answer. So this is, asking about flight information and travel information. So it's going away and it's finding a template for me. And that template can come up, it'll open it for me and actually give me the template I need to fill in to pass to our travel team. So you can see, we use this daily alongside Copilot. It's not a one or the other. Absolutely, we can do all of this using the tool. It is using OpenAI services within Azure. So yes, but it's within your tenant. So it is, super, super powerful, super, super useful, and super tunable, actually. We're just showing you the internal example here. We've connected this to our data sources internally. You could connect it to many different data sources across your environment. Be SaaS services, be, databases, things like that. And it can then bring all of that data together into this simple, single English language search capability. So, fantastic solution. And we love to talk to our clients about it, of what we can do with this solution. It is bespoke. It is something that we've developed, so it can be customized to you. So it looks like you, but I say it does sit within your environment. So fantastic tool. I don't know. I've just nattered away there for a couple of minutes, Arno. Is there anything you want to add into that?
No additional comments. Only to say Gen AI is obviously a game changer and everyone needs to supercharge their own roles by leveraging it. I would just, same as what you said, caution using internet services for the reasons you shared. You're in way safer hands using either Advania's private GPT or Microsoft Copilot.
Thanks. So is Gen AI just chat then? I mean, I can see that it will react if I ask it a question. However, could it be more proactive? What if I wanted to use it for leveraging automation in my business processes? One for you, Arno.
Yes, so Gen AI can absolutely be used in most automation use cases, but I think it's worth breaking down the different types of automation first. I'll try oversimplify some of the common patterns. So first up is workflow. This is what everyone probably understands the most. It takes a defined input, has a set of steps, and produces a defined output. This is a very common pattern, but it has its limitations. Obviously, you need to have all your processes documented, structured, step by step, but businesses are agile and they don't always align to rigid step-by-step processes. So the second step, or the second pattern, expands on this classic workflow by using generative AI as one of the steps in the middle, possibly to write some custom content or generate an image or something to that effect. This is still rigid step-by-step, but uses AI to generate some original content in the middle. Useful, but still not as powerful as the third pattern, which is an agent. So an agent is different because they are dynamic problem solvers and sometimes autonomous. So instead of needing step-by-step instructions, the agent, number one, understands your business. So it understands your business context via grounded data, understands your company, your products, your clients. So it has a lot of context about you and what your wants and needs are. Number two, orchestrates tools and functions it has available to it dynamically. And so for this example, which I have of developing a marketing plan for my product, this could be a tool that searches the internet to do a market scan, or compares your product to competitors, or suggests keywords to support your SEO efforts. So a suite of tools that the agent can dynamically utilize to achieve its goal. And then thirdly, the agent iterates and learns until its goal is achieved. So it's more goal-focused and not step-by-step. So each automation could use different tools depending on what the user wants and needs, which is obviously infinitely more powerful and flexible. And this isn't just about creating marketing plans. Imagine an AI agent that automatically onboards a new hire and ensures they're set up for success. But each onboarding journey is different and adapts to the unique needs of the individual. So an AI agent is your always-on, rule-following employee, one that works 24/7, never takes a sick day, improves every time it messes up, and all you need to feed it is data.
Thanks, Arno. That's brilliant. Okay, we've seen some great technology, and I can see how this enables many industries and organizations to take a huge leap forward with efficiency and productivity. But is it really that easy? Do we have any other moral and ethical concerns we need to consider? How has this worked in your experience? And what should we consider when deploying AI? One for you, Peter.
Thanks. That's a small topic to take in a 45-minute webinar. I'm not going to go into the moral and ethical concerns today. We could spend all day talking about the topic. But what I am going to do is talk about security, because security is one of those top concerns that organizations have when we start talking about AI. So, in the chat already, people have said, if I use this AI type solution, where's my data? Where's my data going? Who's got access to it? And again, that's one of the reasons why we built the private ChatGPT solution, to allow us to make sure that the data is staying within your environment, within your boundary. So that's super, super important. But also, lots of concern around information architecture design. We've all been there. Over the years, we've developed file systems, we've developed environments where security, occasionally somebody says, oh, I just need access to that. Can you just give me access to that? And somebody will just go, oh yeah, go on, and just share a file. And over time, obviously, the information architecture can get a little bit messy, and things can be shared that potentially you wouldn't necessarily want to be shared. And that is a real concern for people, that oversharing with AI can mean that people can find information that actually they shouldn't see. Now, a couple of things that I would say there is AI breaking your security? No. Your security was always, shall we say, security by obscurity. So things were hidden so people couldn't go and find it. But AI isn't actually the thing that's breaking that. So the way we moved forward was we enabled a pilot of AI. We got every one of those users on that pilot to sign a disclaimer that if they saw anything that was not normal, they would obviously just not associate with it. But also at the same time, we were running security assessments to understand what data people had access to. So doing both tracks in parallel, if that makes sense. So not only taking advantage of the great capabilities that AI gives us, but considering our security at the same time, making sure that we are doing both things at the same time. So super, super important. Now, taking that approach allowed us to move forward, allowed us to put the technology in play, but allowed us to do it safely. And that's the number one thing here, making sure that we're not exposing data to individuals that actually they shouldn't see. One of the other things I would say around AI, both for the private ChatGPT and for Copilot, is it uses the security that is in place for you as a user. So it's not going to see things that you do not have rights to see. So both solutions are based around giving us that control and giving us that capability to restrict who can see what. So what that means is, obviously, if you ask a particular question within either the private ChatGPT or Copilot, depending on what information you have rights to, it could give you a different answer. But that's absolutely correct, because it will depend on what you've got access to see within the environment. So absolutely, security is a big concern. Absolutely, we need to make sure that we are understanding that concern and mitigating that concern. But can we do that with AI? Absolutely we can. And my suggestion to all the business owners out there would be, don't pause on AI, put it in a way that will allow you to mitigate those security concerns. Because if you do wait too long, then potentially you might lose out on some of the benefits that AI is going to give you versus your competition. So for me, it's a balancing act, but something that absolutely we can address and we can move forward on using the technology.
Thanks, Pete. I have heard that some clients have already deployed AI, that they're not seeing the expected benefit, that their user adoption isn't where it needs to be. Is there anything that we at Advania can do to help?
Absolutely. Again, showing my age now, I remember when the internet came online, and the internet and its use was a massive, massive change in the way we use IT. You know, you think about how would you work today without the internet? Well, we wouldn't be talking here for starters. But you know, it's massive change. Well, AI is one of those inflection points for me. It is a massive change to the way that we will work. We're removing quite a lot of that manual, repetitive activity out of our daily lives, which, you know, it's got to be a good thing. It's got to be a good thing for everybody. And we're freeing ourselves up to be more creative and more productive in the environment. So, you know, super, super important. But AI itself, well, can all users use it without thinking about, you know, well, how do I use AI? How do I ask it a question? How do I get the right answer out of AI? And this is where the problem comes in. Without proper user adoption, without taking all of your users through using AI, people can soon get to that trough of disillusionment, as they call it, where people will ask AI a question and
Oh dear, we appear to have lost Peter's voice. Okay, I'm going to step in. Thank you, Pete. Very thought-provoking. Before we get to the call to action, we do have some times for some questions posed during this webinar. So I'm just going to read them, and then hopefully one of you guys will be able to pick up on there. So the first one, there are a number of CPU manufacturers that claim to have AI-enabled silicon. What should I choose, and which would you say is best? I'm going to give that one to Ross.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. It's a good question. I know there's, we obviously we say silicon because there's various different types of architecture across different types of manufacturers. Intel, AMD, and Qualcomm. AMD kind of use the same architecture over multiple families of processors. Intel sometimes will change that, and Qualcomm's the same. I would say in terms of choosing the right processor is going to be very much down to performance led, or what the processor can achieve, whether it gives you more tops than because the application is requiring it, or it gives you better battery life, or it's purely because somebody does want to run a small large language model, or they want to run Copilot Plus locally on their system. Because this is where the decision is, as Peter and Arno have been talking about. There's obviously a lot of cloud capabilities being designed and developed, but there is the ability to run a lot of AI locally on the device, whether online, offline, and all those choices really will decide the type of silicon, who you wish to go with, and what performance it can achieve. So I think that's where having the conversations with the Advania account team and establishing what's the right path to take, because there is a lot of choices. Peter again has mentioned it. It's a big inflection point. It's a crossroads, as I call it, to make the decision as to what is the right version. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to invest in, as an example, you don't want to invest in the AMD where you could actually get better features for the organization and for the users by using Intel. So it's knowing what the best route to take is, Andrew. So I would absolutely have further conversations, because there isn't a right or wrong answer. It's what's the best answer on the circumstances of your customer.
That's great. I know we've got lots of account managers just waiting to take that call. I've got
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I've got two questions here, which I'm going to put together because I think they're related. Colleagues are freely using or are using freely available web AI tools, although not on corporate devices. Does this still represent a danger? Good question. But there's also another one that's very similar. What can I do to manage staff sharing company data on public sites? I've heard and read stories of businesses that have been compromised by the unauthorized use of AI in company data.
Am I back?
Peter?
Can you hear me?
So. I can hear you loud and clear.
Fantastic. I love the comments there. My AI bot just broke because it had run out of tops. Yeah, fantastic. Apologies for that. So yeah, picking up that point, how can you control users putting data onto public accessible solutions? Is the data at risk if you're doing so? Well, one of the key things I would say is very much like shadow IT. I believe today we're going to have shadow AI, in that obviously people will try and use a publicly available tool if you're, as an organization, blocking them using a tool of some instance. So I've seen examples of people where they'll have a publicly accessible AI on their phone, or they'll have a second laptop, which is their own personal one, where they may move corporate data, put it through an AI and bring it back into the system. Very difficult to control that. But the way that I would propose that you control that is actually by giving your users an AI facility that they can use and they can make best value of. If they've got a tool they can use and they can use well, they're not going to use a third-party tool. Obviously, from a control perspective, looking after your data is super, super important. We can use tooling within the Microsoft ecosystem around, Purview and such like, to make sure that we've got that data protected so that it can't go to third-party devices. So there are ways and means that we can control that data. But to answer your question, really the best way to do this is make sure that your users have a tool that they can use and get benefit from.
Excellent. Thank you, Peter. Short question, but I think it's going to have a big answer. Is building an agent AI a significant investment? We'll give that one to Arno.
So the answer is going to be, it depends. Probably not what you want to hear. So it's going to depend on what you want your agents to do. If you want your agent to know about your business, if you wanted to have access to your line of business systems, and how complicated these line of business systems are, if you already have Microsoft Copilot investment, etc. So it depends, but it doesn't have to be a significant investment. You can definitely start small and get economies of scale the more agents you build. What I would say is, if you want to get started on your AI journey, talk to us about our Fast Start program, where for a relatively small investment, we can get you started building your first AI agent, or at least get you started on your automation journey.
That's great. Thank you. Another question. There does seem to be an awful lot of Copilots, one for every Microsoft app. Do I just buy one license, or do I have to choose?
Now, there's a good question. It depends on the Copilot. So if we're talking Copilot M365, that's a one-off license. So you buy that circa £25 a month per user, and you use that on a per user per month license. In terms of the other Copilots, they're licensed slightly differently depending on the type of Copilot that it is. So Azure and security, for example, are licensed ever so slightly differently in terms of the amount of data and usage that you're having within them. So it depends. Again, sorry, we shouldn't be using the "it depends" in a webinar, but unfortunately it does. But from an M365 Copilot perspective, then yes, absolutely, it's a per user per month cost. That's where, again, if you think about our private ChatGPT, that's a consumption model. So that's not a per user per month cost. So that one is ever so slightly different in terms of the way that it's used.
That's great. I think probably the best thing to come from that is speak to your Advania and CCS Media and Servium account managers, because they'll be able to help guide you. We've had quite a lot that fall into the same category, which is where people have got specific use cases around what is obviously their business, and they're trying to ask a big question. So just try to pick one at random. My business has made an AI adoption an imperative, and that we start using it for efficiency and to help our business grow. We are a 500-seat engineering company with traditional on-prem and hybrid systems, but use cloud to backup and for some of our applications. Where do I start? And what will the cost be to build that plan that will benefit us? Big subject.
A nice, easy subject to a short topic to end the webinar with. Obviously, can AI help an engineering business? Let's answer that question first of all. Absolutely, yes. 100% AI can help an engineering business, whether that be through HR, helping with looking at CVs, whether that be managing engineering drawings, whether that be health and safety information that potentially people need to access to use machinery. So from an initial standpoint, would it be useful for you as a business? Absolutely, it would. First steps. Obviously, you don't have much data in the cloud, so that's going to limit what we can do from an AI perspective initially, although it is possible to link our private ChatGPT, to on-premise systems. It's a bit clunky, but it's absolutely doable. So, that's not necessarily a blocker. But I would say the first stage would be to move as much of the data that's applicable into the cloud so you can make use of the localized capability of things like Copilot and things like the private ChatGPT without having to traverse to look for data down onto your site. So having a look at the data, having a look at the use cases, absolutely key. What are we looking to do, and what data actually is that looking at and looking for are absolutely important. And from that, we can then define what that migration to the cloud might look like, and therefore then what that Copilot or AI adoption might look like to look at that data. So defining those use cases is going to be the first important step, which is obviously not overly technical. It's more of our adoption team coming in and working with you to understand how your users are actually using it. And that's sort of where I was when my AI ran out of tops. But it's all about, training those users to make sure they understand how to prompt, how to ask that question. The example I was going to give you, and apologies, I'm sort of going off on a tangent slightly, but you ask AI for a cup of tea. It's a standard example we use. What you're going to get back? You could get back a tiny little cup of cold water with a tea bag in it. That's a cup of tea. Whereas if you actually asked for a big mug with boiling water with a tea bag that's been dropped in it for 30 seconds and a dash of milk, that's actually a proper cup of tea that you would want. And that's all about that prompt. It's all about asking the right question to get the right answer and working through with the users, develop that prompt capability so they understand how to do it. The definition of what a prompt looks like is super, super important. And, working with the users to understand those use cases would take that engineering firm on that journey. And that's absolutely something that we would love to help them with, to take them on that journey from where they are today so that they can actually start to make use of that AI capability in a cost-effective manner.
Thanks, Pete. Great answer. And I just want to thank all of you for the great questions. But remember, if we haven't answered your question, please don't worry. We will get back to each and every one of you. And remember, you can always talk to your account manager. So as we get towards the end of the webinar for today, what is the call to action and what should you do next? Peter?
Thank you. And what I'd like to do is just really reiterate what we've been saying all the way through. The next stage, unfortunately, has to be a conversation, because no business is alike to the same as the next business. The way that you would use AI will be unique to you in a lot of respects. But absolutely, I cannot see an industry where AI cannot help to make an industry more productive, more competitive, and therefore, have that competitive advantage over your direct competition. So super, super important. So the next steps really are: speak to your account managers. Your account managers will be very keen to have a conversation with you, to try and get us involved, to actually have those personalized conversations with you, to take that AI conversation further so that we can give you a solution that is actually fit for purpose, not just AI for AI's sake, if that makes sense. As well as that, we're actually at the Microsoft AI Tour in London at the Excel on the 5th of March. Again, if you don't have a link to that, you can search that in your own preferred search engine, or Google or Bing, depending on which way you want to go. But absolutely come and see us. We'll be there. You'll see us with our purple jackets on. You may see some adverts around London, around Advania and our AI capabilities. Come and talk to us. Let's have a conversation. Let's take it further. But not only that, we're actually going to do a prize draw. So 5 lucky winners that are on the call with us today will be lucky enough to receive 2 days free of charge AI readiness workshops if you're at the beginning of your AI journey, or specific AI use case development if you're some way along your AI journey. We'll tailor it to suit the actual individual clients that come out of the hat. So again, 5 lucky winners. We want to get you on that journey and get you to make the stages forward and use that. And I say it will be an FOC thing from us. And I'd just like to leave you with the tagline: AI as it should be with Advania. If you are on LinkedIn and follow Advania in terms of Advania UK's site, have a look at the advert. I find it quite amusing. And it's all about AI as it should be with Advania.
Thank you, Peter. I'd also like to thank Ross from Dell, and also Arno, one of my esteemed Advania colleagues. But most of all, I'd like to thank you for joining us today on what I hope you found a useful discussion around the practical use for AI and how we at Advania can help you realise the true power of AI in productivity and how to use it safely inside your business. Please do join us again soon for another insightful webinar covering IT topics that I know you as our clients have top of mind. Thank you and see you soon.